Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode 52 Authors, 52 Weeks. And today, listen, guys, I've been waiting on this interview because I am a leader. I have a growth mindset, but this book, Leader Mindset Activation, activate, activate your mindset to transform from a manager to a visionary leader. My author today is Angilie Kapoor. And I hope I
Angilie.
said your Angilie. See,
Yes.
so this is proof because I one of the things I brag about is that I don't do any prep meetings with the authors. You schedule an appointment, we come on and we have an authentic conversation. And I am so blessed to just be on this journey with you all because I'm getting to meet so many amazing individuals that I would have never come across, right?
Mhm.
We would have never met each other if it wasn't for this experience. So apologize for mispronouncing your name.
No
And
worries.
so tell our listening, viewing audience, anything you want to share about you, your background, and then we'll get into the book.
Yeah, sounds good. So I actually come from a 20-year background in healthcare, ironically, because are in healthcare as well. So yeah, I spent over 20 years in healthcare, half that time in management and leadership. And it was in 2019 where I was kind of being groomed to go to the next level. I was being looked at for director positions in different hospitals and clinics. And I really kind of sat down and I was like, do I want to keep climbing this ladder? Or do I feel like I'm kind of being drawn into a different direction? And so ultimately I actually got laid off from the healthcare management position I was working at the time, and of going back into job searching and trying to get another management role or a director role. It really was a time of really self-reflection and self-awareness for me because that experience, I really went through a major traumatic identity crisis. Like I did not know who I was without my job title. And so I felt like that was an issue. And so I spent months, really diving into who Angilie really is, not Angilie with a healthcare management title. So ultimately, I decided to pivot and do what I was really passionate about as part of my management role, which was coaching and mentoring my staff and my doctors and other leaders and things like that. And so I dove headfirst into going into coaching school for a year to get certified in that. And then I shortly after that, I started my own leadership coaching company, really again, wanting to do something that I'm passionate about and also really addressing the gap of leadership development and training that I experienced and really saw, other people struggling with as well. So that's how I got into leadership coaching. And today I am a conscious leadership coach as well as a multi-book author. I have two books, the one that you're reading and then another one before that. And I have another one coming out shortly, as well as a inspirational speaker. And I also host two TV shows. So yeah, it's been quite a journey.
I love it. And what I really love, and so many things, so many things. I wish we had more than 30 minutes, but healthcare to coaching, mentoring, something
Hmm.
that you really were doing the whole time you were leading, right? But I feel
Exactly.
like when we're working for organizations, we're kind of in this box and it keeps us hostage, if you will, from
Hmm.
reaching our full potential if you don't know who you are.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I definitely experienced that. I mean, I think that one of the things looking back, in hindsight after going through my 20-year career is, I moved up the ranks very quickly. I never really stayed in a position prior to becoming a manager for more than a year, year and a half. And at that time, I really didn't recognize that I was really looking for a place that would allow me to fully utilize all of my skills and talents and be on a path where, I was really striving to reach my fullest potential. So, I wouldn't stick into one position for very long, although I'd be in a company for years and years years and years. But then when I got into, got promoted into the management and leadership ranks, I also, in the very beginning of my management career, also started to climb that career ladder very quickly. I got my first promotion after being promoted into my first management role. Not even a year after that, I got my first promotion. And then after that, it was another year. So about every year, I get promoted into a higher management level. And it was really kind of the same thing. I always thought that if I got promoted into a management position, it would be the dream job. I would have achieved what I was looking to do for so long, for so many years, is really being in a position where I felt like I was in a place where I was utilizing all of my skills and talents and really being able to create some serious impact on the people that I was managing, the company and our community. But I'm sure, as you know, like you're saying, you get trapped in this little box. And especially in middle management, because you're in between your team as well as upper management and leadership. And, you really don't have the freedom to do what it is that you are capable of doing because there's so many expectations on you. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, you have, listen, just from that last part, you have opened so many eyes of individuals who are listening, viewing this broadcast, thinking, that's me. And that's
Mhm.
me. And that's also me. And what's so funny, as we spend time with others, developing relationships, you learn others have gone through exactly what you went through and they
Mhm.
made it on the other side of it. And so that's an accomplishment, right? Because sometimes we stay, and I think about my grandparents, how they raised us like, okay, you become an adult, you get a job, you stay
Mhm.
at that same job for like 45
20
years,
years, yeah.
and then you're miserable, and you retire to live this American dream or some kind of dream where you're supposed to do all this traveling, but now
Mhm.
you have ailments, right? And it's difficult.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you broke that, you dispelled that myth that it's okay to change jobs, to change positions, but also, and you talk about this in your book, becoming more self-aware of
Mhm.
who you are and what you're destined to be. And I don't know about you, but when I finally walked away from my thing, luckily
Mhm.
it didn't escort me out. I walked away. I was saying to myself, like, girl, what
What
took
took
you
you so
so long?
long?
Like, but I realized it wasn't that I didn't have confidence in myself, because I have
Mhm.
a lot of confidence, but I got comfortable.
Yes.
And I had to make a decision to become comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And then once I made that decision, the level of peace that I have, you can't pay for, because
Exactly.
it's so refreshing. And now I'm just moving about life on my own terms,
Mhm.
and I'm in alignment with my purpose, what I'm supposed to be doing at this time on the other side of 50. I'm
Mhm.
doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But
Mhm.
all of the experience that I gained in leadership, in healthcare, and before healthcare, I was a leader at McDonald's. All of
Mhm.
the tools that I've learned, I'm able to bring those forward and help those that haven't activated their mindset, that
Right.
are literally, and I talk to some women and men who are literally crying before they log on to their computer at work. They're
Mhm.
crying in the car on the way to the job, and that is not healthy.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, you actually hit the nail right on the head is really the premise of kind of what my leadership coaching has become. And that's why I call myself a conscious leadership coach, because my own journey was, when I got promoted into my first management position, I struggled for months because I found myself, again, I wasn't properly prepared for that type of transition from going from being a sole contributor as an employee to now being in a management position where you're responsible for a team and a department and, everybody's performance and financial results and things like that. So, in hindsight, I finally figured out that, and this is what I help people with today, is recognizing that transition, that it's a completely different approach, a completely different perspective, and a completely different mindset. In fact, doing the research for my books, it actually utilizes a completely different part of your brain being in a leadership position. And so, the transition for me was very, very hard. And it's something that I wasn't used to because, again, I was used to accomplishing goals very quickly, which is why I would not stay in one position for very long. So I spent months, I mean, the first like 5 or 6 months of my being in that new position, I went home and, like you said, I cried on the kitchen floor every day because I just felt like I was a failure. I didn't know what I was doing. I was so overwhelmed. I had so many internal things going on with me that I didn't know even existed before I got into my first position, where I had these self-doubt, anxiety, imposter syndrome, all of these fears of conflict and failure and all kinds of stuff. And so when I first started, I really dove into, I've always been really resourceful, and I dove into different books and took different seminars and workshops and conferences. But all that stuff did was manage to confuse me even more. And it never told me how to implement anything, which was super frustrating for me. But anyway, it was several months of me being a manager and all of that, internal stuff, the overwhelm, the self-doubt and the fear, it all really just kept building up inside until just one day it exploded. And I'm sure, because I talked about it in my book, is I just had this huge blow up at a meeting with a division of my team. And, it was completely unexpected. I was known for being really calm and nice and stuff like that. So for me to have this angry outburst during a meeting, it was very atypical of me. I mean, some people walked out completely disgusted by my outburst. Some people walked out crying. Some people were really concerned. I had several people come into my office afterwards, asking me, are you okay? What's going on? But that really was the wake up call that I needed, that I really needed to figure out what was going on with me and how to fix it. Because I recognized that I was starting to become a person that I didn't recognize or like. And so that's really when I got on this path of self-development instead of professional development. So instead of, going to all of those courses and taking all the trainings that my director and, the upper leadership wanted me to take about effective communication and, project management, all of that stuff that I was finding, was helpful for the operational stuff, but for leading, it did nothing to help me. So I started to dive into things like emotional intelligence and mindset and things like that. And that's why, mindset is huge for me, because that was really the first thing that I got into. And it really helped me to recognize just how powerful our minds really are and just how much my very own mind had been holding me back for years and I didn't even recognize it. And so, yeah, that really was the beginning of my self-discovery journey for me. And which is why, again, what I do is conscious leadership development, because my own journey was that, when I figured out that I needed to work on my internal self, work on me first, I started to, as I became a better leader to myself, I in turn became a better leader to my team, to those that I was leading and managing. So, you'll hear me say this all the time, that you can only lead others as effectively as you lead yourself. And I've seen it time and time again in so many different scenarios.
Oh my gosh. You know what? What I was sitting here thinking is that we're having this conversation with each other, and
Mm-hmm.
there are so many leaders that need us
Mm-hmm.
because they're going about their day-to-day responsibilities where they're supposed to be leading, empowering, and transforming the lives of those that they're responsible for. But I
Mm-hmm.
think they spend more time intimidating,
Yep.
bullying
Yes.
folks, and that's what's allowing us to stay where we are. instead of
Mhm.
moving the needle forward. So
Right.
the world needs us to help the next generation of leaders. But I also was sitting here thinking that in your book, when you told the story about you blowing up, I wasn't going to mention
Mhm.
that story just because listen, you when you put it in print, right? The whole world knows it. But for you to say it as calmly as you did, that let me know as the reader
Mhm.
you were okay with that situation because it was a turning point for you and you needed it, right?
Exactly. Mhm.
And I think about me as a leader in a volunteer space that I'm operating in currently. I
Mhm.
always ask at the beginning of each board meeting, tell me something good. Tell me something that's going on in your life that you're so proud about, because oftentimes leaders are just leading, but they're not celebrating their own wins and successes, and everything becomes about everybody else as opposed to about you. And
Mhm.
as you stated, if you don't take care of you, if you don't know who you are, you're going to get lost in all this madness. And when I look at myself in the mirror and I see how I'm operating today as a leader, a mentor, a coach, I'm just like, go, girl,
Mm.
because I can effortlessly do what I do because I'm not being held back, right? I've
Right.
shed all of the hurt and the pain, but I'm also learning
Mhm.
faster than I'm growing, so that as I get into a position where I'm supporting someone, I'm ready. And
Yes.
like you said, it's not about like going to a conference. I even said to someone recently that I know, you get these continuing education credits for the conference, right? Forget all of that.
Mhm.
I want to change lives at the end of my 50-minute presentation.
Yes.
That's when I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah,
So
exactly.
let's talk a little bit about the book, just a little bit, because I believe that leaders need to buy the book. Leaders need to buy the book. You need to get a highlighter. You need to get a separate notebook to write some notes. And for me as a reader, I read, I reflect,
Mhm.
and then I also put together an action plan, some takeaways. Now,
Mhm.
one of the things I need to do, and you can see some of my books behind me, I need to take, because I have notes in books and different journals, and I need to
Mhm.
pull out and just make a collage of the different things that I've learned. But after 52 weeks, 52 authors, my life will never be the same.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Never.
sure. Mhm.
So tell us, and I know we only have about 8, 9 minutes left for our interview, but you talk about this book is a must read for managers.
Mhm.
What would you say to that leader who today, listening to this,
Mhm.
the tears have started to, form? They too have probably been on the verge of exploding in a meeting. It hasn't happened yet. What would you say to them to pull them out of that state to help them not necessarily go down that path? Now, don't be confused. Sometimes you need to have the explosive moment because it teaches others around you that, hey, something's going on and we got a problem. We need to solve the problem.
Mhm.
So sometimes you need, I'm not saying to everybody, the leaders, don't go into the next
We
meeting and
start yelling at
explode.
people.
Right. Don't start yelling at people. But um, through your journey, we all can recognize when we're at that breaking point
Right.
so we can pull ourselves back, having the tools to not even get all the way there. But I'm going to let you
Exactly.
talk.
Yeah, yeah. No, you actually, made the point right there is that having the tools to where we never get to that point. And that's kind of what I recognized, being on my self-discovery journey for so long now is that back then it was such a culmination of different things. It was, me not really being in control of myself and my life. really being conformed by, my company and different people and the expectations that people had for me as a person, as a manager and a leader and things like that. I also did not recognize the difference between managing and leading. And again, didn't recognize that there was that transition that needed to be made. And that really leadership is a journey. And again, it really starts with you. And really recognizing that really everything starts with you. Everything that I was struggling with, motivating my staff, managing the different personalities, having those difficult conversations. And, a lot of that stuff, again, that's why all of that internal stuff kind of comes up, is because it brings up those fears. It brings up those anxieties about, wanting to perform well, but having to be put into those different situations to where we can do that. And, ultimately over my journey, I have really found that foundationally, leadership is all about the human experience, which I think that, a majority of workplaces and stuff like that is, just over centuries and decades, it's just become this, place where it really strips away our individuality and our different personalities. We are turned into numbers and folders and, pieces on a chessboard for people to move around. But again, it's really about the human experience. One of the things that, when I first became a manager that was difficult for me to break out of was, really letting people see the chinks in my armor, that I myself was a human being, that I wasn't, this person that they put on a pedestal and I was expected to be perfect all the time at everything that I was doing and saying. But, really recognizing and letting people see that human side of me. And, when I actually started to do that, and trust me, it's super difficult, especially when you're having that mindset that you do need to behave and be a certain way if you're in a leadership position. But at the same time, people will connect and resonate with you if they can see that you're a person too. So becoming transparent and authentic and being vulnerable is difficult, but trust me, it's one of the hugest things that I've ever done in my career. But to answer your question, for somebody who is, in that place that I was so many years ago, crying on the kitchen floor every night, feeling like I didn't know what I was doing, like I was a failure, asking myself if I even belonged where I was. Let me, say to you this particular feeling and moment that you're having right now, it's not okay. It's not what God intended us to experience in our lives. For us to feel the way that you're feeling right now. He created each of us individually to be these, what I call these phenomenal leaders. We all have within us an inner phenomenal leader, which is really that best version of ourselves that created, that we really are here to find and embody and then start serving this, having to reach our fullest potential. So for somebody who is in that position, kind of like I found my when I had that pivotal moment of mine, is really sitting down and saying, okay, how did I get here? What's going on? Who am I really? And where do I go from here? And really take control and taking the reins of your life and what's going on in your life, and really discovering who you truly and authentically are. To embark on that journey, it's going to be one of the most difficult, greatest things you can tell people to, and really start to be truly meant to be and live the life that they're truly meant to live.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I was just sitting here thinking, I'm always thinking, right? I'm like, we're both healthcare leaders, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think about all as a consultant now basis. And as long as I show up as authentically Lisa L. Campbell,
Mm-hmm.
people tend to be very comfortable with me. We can have the difficult conversations because they see, without all the degrees, without all the things, I'm just a girl from the south side of Chicago, right?
Mm-hmm.
and who loves what she does. But number one, I think most importantly, I have a heart for people.
Yes.
And I don't believe in treating people unfairly. I just
Mhm.
believe in we're all the same. We're all here for the same mission. What do we need to do to get to the goal, right? But I
Right.
think as leaders, and you mentioned this, we are so programmed in meeting these metrics that we miss the message.
Exactly. Mhm.
Ooh, this is like a I feel like this is like a master class now. This is beyond the 52 weeks, 52 authors. And believe it or not, I think I need to count how many leaders that I've been interviewing that have written books. And I
Mhm.
said, you know what? The industries really allowed us to get away because many of us are like, yeah, we're done with that 9 to 5 business. We're operating in this consultant coach role because we
Mhm.
figured it out. But
Yes.
now we got to go back and help others figure it out because what I don't want to happen is to see leaders taking their own lives, right? I don't
Yes.
want to see that happening. It's one thing to have a meltdown in a meeting, it's
Mhm.
another thing to go to the car and take your own life.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've run into several, different types of leaders, team leaders and workplace managers who, you know, unfortunately didn't have the help or have that kind of pivotal moment of transition like I did, where, they spent some years in their leadership and management roles and then ultimately quit. They just threw their hands up in the air and say, you know what, I can't do it. I can't figure it out. So this isn't for me. And in talking to them, they're phenomenal leaders, and if they were given the right guidance and the right support, I know that they could have done some amazing, extraordinary things in their workplace and for the people that they were supporting. So for me, kind of like what you're saying is, leaders who give up in various ways, whether that be taking their own lives or going to something different that might necessarily not be their calling, that's really detrimental to me. And another reason why I do what I do is, to help the leaders in the workplace to, find their way and get to the other side. Because, I don't believe in coincidences. I don't believe that things happen for that things accidentally happen. They happen for a reason. And people are put in those positions because they have a certain skill and qualities, and they have the potential to have an amazing impact on people and their company and their communities. But again, you got to work through all that junk to figure out how to be able to do that. So yeah, definitely, something that I strive to do is to help those leaders find themselves and find their right paths so they can be as impactful as possible.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So our time is almost up, but I want you to tell our listening viewing audience where they can find the book, where they can find you, because I am sure that there are some that are listening and viewing this that are like, all right, get to the contact information. They've already Googled you because they're like, she's the one to help me. So give us that information.
Yeah, so everything can be found on my website, which is www.oversightglobal.com. And Oversight Global is OVERSIGHT global.com. And so you'll find all of my social profile links, also links to my TV show, my YouTube channel, as well as on our products and services page. You'll find the links to be able to order the books off of Amazon. And, if you sign up for our weekly newsletter, you'll get all the updates of current and upcoming things coming out. We have some amazing things coming up. We're doing some amazing things with the TV show, which I encourage everybody to watch. There's two different ones. So I'm on Monday night at 6 p.m. Pacific time, as well as a Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And you'll find that information on the website. And we also are starting to do retreats. Our first retreat is going to be this May here in Mexico. So it'll be quite the experience. So again, check out my website, sign up for our newsletter so you can stay updated on everything that is coming up. Have some exciting stuff going on.
I love it. And I'm like, I'm so honored to have this opportunity to meet you. Because again, I'm from Chicago, south side of Chicago, and had this vision to meet and interview 52 authors in 52 weeks. And it's true when they say visions and dreams come reality if you work towards them.
Mhm.
You have to put in the work, right? It's not like you push a button on the microwave and all of a sudden, voila, it's here. So I have to ask, what's on the horizon for a new book?
Yeah, so I actually have two exciting books coming out. So I have a book that I co-authored that is actually being endorsed by the great Tony Robbins, and that is coming out next month. And then I'm actually working on a spiritual mindset journey book. It's about halfway done, and I'm hoping to get that out in a couple months. But again, one of the several journeys that I myself have experienced in my life and being a believer is really having that. Again, I tend to find a lot of gaps in processes throughout my life, but really finding that also there is a gap when you become a new believer and are, kind of being developed and taught how to develop your own personal relationship with God. And I found that that was lacking in the different congregations that I've been in. And so I've started to write a book that speaks about my experience and helps other, future new believers or believers who are stagnant in their journeys to be able to, get on that journey properly and be able to, make it to the other side to where they have accomplished spiritual maturity.
I love it. Well, I can just think off the top of my head all kinds of topics you can have in that book. I mean, as a person who grew up in the church,
Me
there was
too.
a point in my life where I was lost. And so I left the church, right?
Hmm.
Because I wasn't being fed what I needed to be fed.
Yep.
And so, here at this point in my life, on my other side of 50, my faith is strong.
Hmm.
And now, could my walk with God be better? Absolutely, right? Nobody is perfect,
Right.
but I definitely have been able to draw upon my childhood experiences that
Hmm.
really are keeping me sane, right? Something that
Right.
somebody said 30 years ago in church. I'm like, oh, I wrote that down, and that is so true. So
Hmm.
I can't wait to see. I wish I could buy all your books. That's what I said. I wish I had enough money to buy all of everybody's books because I just love learning and growing with you. And I'm just so grateful and blessed to have this opportunity to interview you and meet you. I wish you the best of luck in the future. My May is booked up, so I cannot go to the retreat, but I'm going to have a little note from my assistant to find out what's happening after that. Because number one, I love anything that requires a passport is my friend. So I want to thank you so much for your time today. And to everyone that is listening, this has been another episode 52 Authors, 52 Weeks. See you next time.